Hey, I'm Jen Thone with YourColorStyle.com, and in this video I want to talk about universal colors. Now you'll hear me say a lot about universal colors because I'll say things like that red is a universal color. It can be worn by anyone. But I want to break this down a little bit more in terms of color theory and to really help you understand what it means for a color to be universal and for you to not worry so much of whether or not it's for warm or for cool, and to really kind of help you understand that. So when I show you the color wheel here in just a moment, we're going to talk about not only the universal colors that I've deemed that anybody can wear, which are basically your primary colors, and I'll share that with you in just a second, but also what I mean when I say universal when I'm talking about the color palette cards. And the color palette cards, you get a set of 3 cards. You get your neutrals for your color type. You get your warm or cool card, depending on your color type, warm for warm, cool for cool. And then you also get a card which I refer to as your universal colors. And these are the colors that I feel that you can wear. And I want to kind of explain that a little bit more so you could understand how you might wear those colors, and where you might also want to avoid some colors. So I hope this helps. All right, here is the bright, cool, and medium color palette card set, and the universal card in this set is over here on the left. It's the yellow to blue card here. Okay, so let me explain this in a couple different ways when we're talking about universal colors. So first, when you're looking at the color wheel, and this is the bright one, we also have soft. Notice these little stars here that I have along these colors. These are the colors that I call universal colors. They are the colors that look good whether or not you have warm undertones or cool undertones. They're universal. They're kind of, I'll air quote, neutral, in that they're not really warm or cool when it comes to figuring out if you can wear them. Even though red is on the warm side and blue is on the cool side, it doesn't matter. If you have warm undertones, you can wear these colors that have the stars. And if you have cool undertones, you can still wear the few colors here on the side here that have the stars. Now, the trick is that when you're looking for a red or yellow that could be worn by someone with cool undertones, you really need to make sure that the red is a true red. It's very difficult to find that sometimes. You'll usually find more of an orange red that's like a tomato red, or more of a blue red. So when I say that they're universal, please keep in mind that it's because it's a true primary color, but it really depends on the manufacturer whether or not that red is going to be actually a true red. And the same is for the yellow. A true yellow can kind of go both ways, but you're going to typically find more golden yellows or more limey lemon yellows. And so those yellows that have blue added are going to be cooler, and the yellows that have red added are going to be warmer. So they're not always truly universal colors. All right, but when I say universal, most of the time what I'm referring to are these primary and secondary colors that you see on the color wheel with these stars. All right. However, when we're talking about the color palette cards, I have a card here that I call a universal card. And the reason that I call it a universal card is because I believe the range of colors between blue and yellow can be worn regardless of whether or not you have warm or cool undertones. But there are some things I want you to understand before you dive in, or before you're eager to argue with me whether or not I'm right. Okay? So as you can see here, we have true blue and we have true yellow, and we have the full complete spectrum between blue and yellow, which includes green that's right there in the middle. Okay? And the same is true for the soft. Okay, so these are the colors that you can wear regardless of you being warm or cool. But let's talk a little bit about color theory so that you can understand a little bit more about how to really think about these colors. All right, so color theory says when you add blue to a color, you are cooling it down, and when you're adding yellow to a color, you are warming it up. Right? So you've got blue here, which is a cool color. You've got yellow over here, which is a warm color. And when you add blue, you instantly start to cool it down. So this range here is ultimately cool colors. So you may be wondering, well, okay, does that mean that it could only be worn by someone with cool undertones? No. And that's the reason why I call these kind of the universal colors. These are colors that start with blue and you start adding yellow and it warms them up. And so they can also be worn by people with warm undertones. This is the range of colors that really, it has green here, which is always kind of perceived to be a warm color, but it's actually a very neutral color. It's an even balance of blue and yellow, but it happens to be over on the cool side of the color wheel. So these cool colors can be worn by both warm and cool undertones, all right? In fact, if you see this line that kind of draws right here in the center of the color wheel, from here to blue, can be worn without question, without concern, whether or not you have warm or cool undertones. Okay? Now you might want to pay attention to whether or not the colors might be too dark for you, but all of these colors here can be worn. Now when we go over here to the yellow side, where you've got yellow to yellow green to green yellow, this is where I get a lot of, whoa, are you sure? I don't know about that, because someone with warm undertones sometimes doesn't look good in these colors, even though they're on the warm side of the color wheel. And someone with cool undertones sometimes doesn't look good with these colors, even though I say that they're universal and they're tipping towards cool. So here is my rule of thumb on this. First of all, if you really love a color, you should absolutely wear it. If you see that it fits in here and it's universal, you like it, you should wear it and play with it. Because a lot of times we just hide away from a color, but don't really try it, okay? From the center line over to blue, definitely all those colors work. Those teals, those greens, they work well on anyone. And so definitely play with those if you haven't before. Now for these, the lighter you go, the more neutral you typically become. It doesn't mean that you can wear everything, but the lighter that you are, when I say light, you've got your light hair, eyes, and skin, the more you can kind of span from warm to cool in colors. And so the lighter you are, someone who's bright, warm, and light, for example, can wear all of these lighter colors, from the true yellow to the lighter green yellows and so on. Someone who is bright, cool, and light, the same. They can also wear these lemon yellows really, really well. When we're talking about someone who is soft, if you are fair, if you are soft, cool, and light, these colors can be worn by you fairly well, okay? And if you are soft, medium, and light, the same. In fact, some of these colors might even pick up some of the colors in your eye, all right? The same is true for someone who's very, very deep. If you are very deep, these colors can also span across. You might need to change your makeup a tiny bit if it's feeling like these are going too warm, but really these are where the olive greens are born, is over in this area right here of the color wheel. And olive green really does look good on most people. It starts to not look good when the color starts to look a little bit too bright. There are some olive greens that have a lot more saturation in them than others, and so you want to be sure you stick to soft or bright in those colors, okay? But deep also, because they happen to be a little bit more neutral in their appearance, can also span a little bit more in the color palette range, all right? But if you're in medium, especially if you've got warm undertones, you're kind of holding your ground there in that medium range. And sometimes these colors here don't look great on you. You really need to stick more into the warm colors that I describe in another video, okay? And these aren't so great. So these are kind of the iffy colors right here, but for the most part, I call them universal because they can be worn often by people with both warm and cool undertones. So I hope that helps. And if you are interested in those color palette cards, if you know what your color type is, You can go ahead and check those out. There's a link in the description below this video that you can click on. It'll take you straight to them so that you can go ahead and order your set of color palette cards. If you've been trying to figure out what colors flatter you best, then take the quiz at yourcolorstyle.com/quiz. It'll walk you through step by step how to figure out what types of colors look best on you. It's super easy and absolutely free. That's yourcolorstyle.com/quiz.